Welcome to Seize the Mains by Malhotra's IS Academy. I'm Surbhi Sardana and this is Season 3 of our Daily Answer Writing Initiative. This initiative is running from Monday to Saturday in coordination with our website, which is rajisacademy.com. Let me tell you what we do here. Every day we bring out a question from current affairs exactly framed on the lines of UPSC Civil Services Mains examination. We frame a model answer for it, our team sits together and we write a model answer to it, and here we present every day at 9 p.m. the technique how to write the model answer, the technique of how to approach that question to have better marks in mains too, so that you can get more and more marks in mains by practicing with us on a daily basis. After watching the video, what you can do is on our website in the mains answer writing section, you see that question and model answer uploaded. For example, the question for today is for day 143. It's a different numbering on YouTube, so just stay with me. For 143rd question is being discussed today, and 143rd question has been uploaded on the website there. So if you click on that, it will be followed by its model answer, and in the comment section there what you can do is, if you're practicing your answer writing with us, post your answers on the website in the comment section and our team will evaluate those answers entirely free of cost for you. See, we as UPSC aspirants, everybody struggles with a good quality feedback. You do not find teachers or good evaluators who would give feedback on your answer writing so that you can improve, and nowhere it happens that an initiative runs free of cost for more than a year to be and helps you in such an immense way so that you improve. So this initiative runs from Monday to Saturday entirely free of cost. If you have not joined it, just go through this video, just stay with me throughout the video, and after watching the video, try to frame your own model answer to the question that we are discussing today and just straight away post it on the website. As you can take pictures of the answer and then post the pictures, or type your answer on the website. The link would be present in the description below. So let's see what is the topic for today. So United Nations and its reforms. United Nations and associated reforms. United Nations has been in question in the especially after the past few years. We saw the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw humanitarian crisis across the globe, and recently we saw the Russia-Ukraine war. So the validity or the relevance of United Nations has been questioned from time to time, and they say that it is high time that UN reformed itself, because otherwise it would be too late. So let's see what is the question. The current geopolitical and economic realities make it imperative for the UN system to introduce reforms. Discuss, answer in 250 words. So see, quote inside the quoted statement there is a very general statement with regards to UN. So let's break this statement. Let's try to understand what are the clues that this statement can give us. हम इस statement से क्या clues ले सकते हैं अपने answer writing के बारे में. The current geopolitical and economic realities. So we are talking about current geopolitical and economic realities. About the economic realities, let me make it clear that according to various reports, the difference between poorest of the poor and richest of the richest, that has only increased after the incoming of United Nations, after the establishment of United Nations. Also, we do not have a very equitable world order when it comes to the standard of living of people, or the basic necessities of food, shelter, proper health. We do not live in a very equitable world, and so that is where the question of UN reforms comes in, because that is the responsibility of United Nations also, to restore world peace, to establish an equitable world order. The second one here is geopolitical. Geopolitical turmoil has been seen in the past few years in various regions across the globe. The richest countries or the most powerful countries, which make up the 5 permanent members of Security Council, they do not have cordial relations with them. There is a lot of increase in deterrence capabilities of countries. Countries are amassing nuclear weapons, countries are producing hypersonic missiles and stuff like that, and geopolitical relations are not peaceful at all when it comes to countries which are at par with each other. So the current geopolitical and economic realities, I hope that part is clear. What does the statement intend to tell you? They make it imperative for the UN system to introduce reforms. Discuss. Make it imperative for the UN system to introduce reforms. In this discuss question, see, discuss is always a written debate, and in a debate you just do not talk about pros and cons or positives and negatives of a situation. You highlight all parts of the situation, or whatever is there, whatever has been asked in the question. So when we say discuss, we will talk about the societal impact, we will talk about the economic and geopolitical as it has been given. Our characterization of the answer would be mostly aligned with the economic and geopolitical aspect, and we will give all the aspects that why UN needs some reforms and what are these reforms. We will write what are these reforms, what can be done in our way forward. So as usual, as we do here every day on Seize the Mains, we'll start by writing an introduction, and in the introduction what we'll do is we will talk about UN, United Nations. Now it's a very old organization, you don't have to define it, you don't have to really talk about it. What you can do is you can talk about its mandate, what is the vision of United Nations. So that can be done. Let's write an introduction here. Let's write about the purposes of United Nations so that we can question those purposes by giving some recent examples that UN has not justified its purposes there. The stated purposes of UN are to maintain international peace and security, develop friendly relations among nations, achieve international cooperation, protect human rights, deliver humanitarian aid, promote sustainable development, uphold international law, and be a center for harmonizing the actions of nations. So this is its general purpose. This is what UN is there for, this is what its purpose is, this is what it does and it should be doing ideally. However, questions have been raised on the efficacy of UN from time to time. Efficacy with respect to all these purposes, questions have been raised with respect to the efficacy. And now solutions, they lie within the UN system itself. We do not have anything above United Nations, so solutions, they lie within the UN systems itself. So most countries desire strong changes in the functioning and structure of United Nations, especially due to the following reasons. Most countries want, big changes, big or small changes in the structure and functioning of United Nations. Due to the following reasons, here you are, giving a validation to the statement by giving some reasons in your body paragraph. The first one, the most sought after reform is the reforms in structure of Security Council. There are just 5 permanent members who were the victors or on the side of victors of World War I, so to say, and as of now only those 5 permanent members are there which have veto powers, which have very strong powers, and Security Council itself is a very strong organ of United Nations because it can issue legally binding instructions, the only organ that can issue legally binding instructions. So these 5 countries, they have a lot of stronghold which is not liked by other countries, first of all because there is no equitable representation in the permanent members of Security Council. Secondly, Security Council permanent membership, these 5 members, they reflect power dynamics of the previous century, not of this century. As you know that India is surpassing China next year to become the most populous country of the world. So definitely India has a role to play and India does deserve a permanent seat in the Security Council. Secondly, when we talk about Africa, the entire African continent does not have even 1 permanent member in the Security Council. So if you are running United Nations like a global government, then equitable representation is required and everybody needs to have powers at par with each other. So the Security Council, it is not representative of developing countries even after 77 years of its existence. The P5 now only make up of 3% of United Nations member states and oversee only 26% of the world's population. That is just 1/4 of the world's population. So the 1/4 leadership of 1/4 of world's population cannot be deciding for 3/4 of the rest of the world. Secondly, we'll talk about functioning of Security Council. The Security Council is mired by system of, see, this is something with respect to IR here. The first part, the first point that we have discussed here, this is mostly geopolitical because here you're talking about countries, so just do not keep yourself bound with only geopolitical and economic points. Obviously these are very valid points, the structure of Security Council, permanent membership in Security Council. So do not be worried that why haven't we characterized the answer into two parts when it was directly mentioned in the statement. You can write as many reforms as are required in United Nations, just don't go off the track or just do not cross the word limit, that is there for sure. Secondly, about the functioning of Security Council, it is mired by a system of vetoes of the permanent members and has been unable to act on human rights violations. The best example is in the case of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Because of these vetoes which are present in the Security Council, many countries who have veto powers, sometimes what they do is they do not act against another country with which they might have some geopolitical interest with or other economic interest with. So they do not act against those. So the purpose of United Nations to establish international peace, that gets dissolved because of this veto power or the functioning of Security Council, because it has not been able to act on human rights violations. The third one is in dealing with situations like the Nagorno-Karabakh war a few months back, we were discussing this, conflict in Ethiopia to Myanmar's coup, upsurge of Israeli-Palestinian violence, Taliban takeover of Afghanistan, the 2008 financial crisis, very important, when all the countries, they were suffering alone. Everybody was suffering, but they were suffering alone. And during the COVID-19 global pandemic, very less coordination in times of stress. Yes, India was coordinating with other smaller countries, we were helping them out, but the kind of help that should have happened at the global level and which India as a developing country expected, that was a bit disappointing, and United Nations should have played a major or at least a better role here. The Security Council has appeared risk averse and often divided and generally avoided taking politically bold positions. And the UN's main conflict management tools such as mediation and peacekeeping have appeared largely irrelevant to the problems at hand. Yes, mediation and peacekeeping, they have worked, but peacekeeping is a post-war measure or a post-conflict measure. Peacekeeping is done, very well by United Nations, but why do we have the need of peacekeeping? Especially when it comes to war zones, why do we have wars even after 77 years of United Nations being functioning? So that is the question here, and it is high time to question its functioning, otherwise it would go back into oblivion. The fourth one is, despite improvements in fight against poverty, this is very important one, your economic point would be justified here, that they are in a increased funding battle. They're in a constant battle for increased funding, all in order to cover the spiraling cost of its missions on public health, peacekeeping, education, and countless amount of other initiatives. So it appears on the website of United Nations. If you download the PDF regarding United Nations from their website, they say that the budget of United Nations, it's including its peacekeeping missions, including its activities in the field of education, health, everything, the budget of United Nations is equal to the amount of money that United States of America is spending on flowers on an annual basis. So the expenses made by people of United States of America to buy flowers or to have flowers is exactly equal to the budget of United Nations. That means on a very sarcastic note, that is a very small amount that the United Nations is functioning upon. All salaries, all maintenance of offices, peacekeeping missions, education, health, whatever they are carrying out. So budget is a major problem there with the United Nations itself. So it's high time that United Nations come up with a different model of funding, otherwise what happens, what would happen, the countries which fund United Nations majorly, they would have the biggest say in how UN functions, and that would dissolve the purpose of United Nations. The fifth one is, lingering differences between world's great powers continue to limit the ability of United Nations to collectively respond. Again, this has to go back to the Security Council also, but otherwise also there are differences rising in many regions of the world. For example, increasing divide between US and Russia and China and US. This is escalated by budgetary constraints on United Nations, as more and more nations lose trust on it. So United Nations itself, they cannot take a stand against these countries because they fund it majorly. Sixth one, most important one, is that even after decades of UN development programs, loans and aid to the developing world, quality of life and happiness, that has not risen significantly. Even in fact, people who were affluent before have got more affluent, and that trickle down of wealth has not worked as efficiently as it was thought to work, or as it was predicted to work. So that trickle down has not worked, and United Nations has been put under a big question mark here, because the difference between poorest of the poor and richest people of the world, which make up just 1% of the world, which make up just 1% of the people all over the world, that is rising. So poor people are getting poorer, or they are not able to afford basic living conditions also, and richer people, they are getting more affluent. So statistics confirm that the UN has seen increasing economic inequality all over the globe. In 1940s, the P5 countries, the 5 permanent members of Security Council, they controlled 47% of global GDP, that is almost half of global GDP. In spite of UN's significant growth since this time, with the addition of 80 new members, the P5 still controls 49% of GDP today. That is even more than before. So these just 5 countries control more than 50% of the entire world's GDP, and the rest of the world functions on rest of the 50%. The P5's incompetence to counter economic inequality in the UN and world at large also reflects a deeply rooted structural issue in the systems that we follow, that whether that is globalization, giving a push to capitalism, the trickle down theory of wealth, whatever we follow. So there is a deep rooted structural issue that we need to address. Seventh one, and finally, the challenges which are emerging now, not just for countries but for the entire world, they are newer and they are stronger than ever before. And not just that, they are evolving very fast. For example, cyber terrorism, cyber warfare, hacking incidents on a daily basis, and all kinds of trafficking, not just human trafficking but trafficking of wild animals. And with the upcoming of cryptocurrency, locating or finding out the means of funding, that is also getting tougher. So if the countries are on one side, if orders like democracy or republicanism, they are on one side and challenges are on the other, then standing on one side, United Nations has to be on this side itself and find common solutions. And to find those common solutions, first of all, the structure of UN needs to change. Secondly, new agencies need to come up. So facing challenges that were unimaginable to our predecessors: cyber warfare, terrorism, lethal autonomous weapons. So these are the 7 points that make it imperative for the United Nations to reform itself. And if reforms are not introduced, then United Nations will become redundant in no time. In the conclusion, we'll use the conclusion to write a way forward. First of all, we'll sum up that due to the above and many more reasons, a series of changes is required in the UN system, especially around the structure of Security Council. So that is an important one here. We are reiterating that a truly representative Security Council is the most pressing need of the hour, because to introduce reforms, nations need to have a say, and whatever they say, that should be, that should have a legally binding effect. The world body UN could slip into oblivion and be overtaken by more democratic organizations. What are these more democratic organizations? These are your regional organizations like the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, like BIMSTEC, like different types of quad groupings coming up. If the UNSC is not reformed to make it more relevant to today's geopolitical and economic realities, you can add that. Also, new agencies of United Nations to specifically deal with this new challenges of terrorism, cyber warfare, they need to be coming up. To deal specifically with new challenges, need to come into the picture in order to establish a world order that is more equitable and sustainable. Here is something that we need to focus upon, because this is again one of the purposes of United Nations, and that is where this is the answer to to the statement, to the terms that have been used by the examiner in the statement, that when you end it on these terms, the examiner understands that you know the purpose of United Nations and your answer is in that respect only. So make sure that you end on a very presentable note, you start your answers with very good introductions, and you use a lot of creativity in your body paragraphs, lots of data, statistics. Just keep following current affairs, newspapers, keep adding to your knowledge what you learn on a daily basis. And yes, one day will come when you will be writing mains and you'll be writing it better than all other aspirants, because you would have worked the entire previous year. So yes, again, I wish you all the best. Stay tuned to our channel. Post your answers on the website after watching this video. This question was posted on Saturday itself. The video got delayed by one day, so my apologies, our team's apologies on that part. Also, tomorrow I'll come up with another discussion. We'll come up with another discussion of Seize the Mains. We are running new initiatives on YouTube every day. Just check out the playlist. Just go to the video section and the live section. That is a new section that has been introduced, and join us live. There are 3-hour current affairs going on Saturdays, taken by Mr. Amanjot. So join us for live sessions. You can also ask questions there. The presence of mind would also be better. Plus, you will know that you are booked for 3 hours or half an hour for that matter. So yes, I'll see you tomorrow. Keep working hard, stay tuned, and all the best.